My wife betrayed me by having a secret affair with her boss, and it all came to light when she tried to secretly transfer $200, $0 of our family savings to him. Now we're embroiled in a heated legal battle over the house, the money, and who really owns everything. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Honestly, life was pretty straightforward before all this chaos. I had a decent job, a decent wife, and a house that I thought was our little sanctuary. Her name was Lisa, and she always seemed a bit bitchy, but I figured that was just her personality. She was sharp-tongued, quick-witted, and sometimes a little manipulative, but I loved her. At least I thought I did. Things started to change about 6 months ago, little signs that I brushed off at first. She was more secretive about her phone, deleting messages quickly when I walked into the room. She'd be more distant after work, sometimes staying late at the office, claiming she was just catching up on projects. I didn't think much of it. I mean, everyone gets busy, right? But then last month I noticed her behavior getting even more suspicious. She was acting nervous whenever I asked about her day. Her phone buzzed constantly, and she'd hide it under her pillow or slip it into her purse when I was around. She started wearing more revealing clothes, sending me sly little smiles that didn't sit right with me. I'd catch her in little lies about where she was going, who she was meeting. Nothing huge, but enough to make me uneasy. Still, I kept telling myself I was paranoid. Maybe I was overthinking it. I mean, she's a woman who's always been a bit bitchy, a little manipulative, but I trusted her. Or at least I thought I did. Then one night I decided to check her phone. I know, that's invasive, but something told me to do it. I waited until she was asleep and I grabbed her phone from the charger. That's when I saw it. A string of messages that made my stomach drop. She was texting her boss, Mark, in a way that was way more than professional. Flirty comments, inside jokes, even plans to meet up after hours. But it wasn't just casual. There was something more, an intimacy that shouldn't be happening between a wife and her boss. My heart pounded as I read through the messages, her calling him babe once, saying she couldn't wait to see him again. I felt sick, like I'd been punched in the gut. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept staring at the ceiling, replaying everything I'd read. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and confusion. I thought about confronting her then, but I needed more proof. I decided to dig deeper. Over the next few days, I started watching her more closely, paying attention to her calls, her movements, her online activity. It didn't take long to find more. Hidden emails, bank statements showing transfers to Mark's account, and even a secret email address she'd been using to communicate with him. It was all there, proof that she'd been cheating on me with her boss for months, probably even longer. When I finally sat her down to confront her, her reaction was everything I expected: defensive, bitchy, full of lies. She denied everything at first, saying I was paranoid, that I was imagining things. She spun some story about how Mark was just a mentor, that she was feeling stressed and lonely, but nothing about the messages or the transfers added up to that. I could see right through her lies. She was a master manipulator, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I was furious, hurt, and feeling lost. My trust was shattered, and I realized that nothing was going to be the same after this. The woman I loved was cheating on me with her boss, and she was trying to cover it up with bullshit excuses. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. All I knew was this was just the beginning of a much darker chapter. After that confrontation, everything changed. The house felt colder, heavier with unspoken words and the weight of betrayal. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I looked at Lisa, I saw a stranger. Her bitchy smirk, the way she lied so easily, like she thought she could just sweep everything under the rug. But I wasn't going to let her get away. With it, I decided I needed to be smart about this, not just react emotionally. I started gathering more evidence, digging through her emails, bank accounts, her phone, anything that could give me leverage or clarity. What made this even worse was the money. Turns out, Lisa had been funneling some of our savings into Mark's account. I found out she transferred around $200, $0, our life savings, without my knowledge or consent. I couldn't believe it. We worked hard for that money, saved for a house for our future, and she was just handing it over to her lover like it was nothing. And the worst part, she kept insisting she was doing it for us, claiming Mark was going to help us with investments or some bullshit. She tried to spin it like she was the victim, painting herself as someone who was just trying to secure our future. I knew better. She was using me and the money to feed her affair. I felt sick. The betrayal was one thing, but the financial damage hit me hard. I realized I needed legal advice fast. I started talking to a lawyer, explaining everything: the affair, the transfer of money, her lies. The lawyer told me I had a solid case for a legal separation, maybe even a divorce, especially with the proof I had. But I wasn't just angry, I was furious. I wanted revenge, but I also wanted justice. I needed to make sure she paid for what she'd done, especially with the money. I couldn't let her walk away with everything, pretending it was all just a misunderstanding. No, I was going to make her regret this. In the meantime, I decided to set a trap. I knew she'd try to hide her tracks, so I started secretly recording her calls, logging her movements, and even installing a keylogger on her computer. I wanted to catch her in the act again if she slipped up. Meanwhile, I was also planning my next move. I knew I'd have to confront her with everything I had, but I wanted to do it on my terms. I couldn't just accuse her outright. I needed her to slip up, to admit it herself. That's when I started thinking about how to turn the tables. If she thought she was still in control, she'd never see it coming. One evening she came home late again, smelling like perfume and alcohol, her eyes darting around nervously. I played it cool, but I had everything ready. I waited until she was in the bedroom, then I confronted her with the evidence, screenshots of the messages, the bank transfers, the emails. Her face twisted in rage and panic. She started lying again, saying it was all a mistake, that Mark was just a friend, that I was overreacting. But I had enough. I told her I knew about everything, about the affair, the money, her lies. Her bitchy facade cracked for a second, and she looked at me with pure hatred. She yelled, called me paranoid, insecure, jealous. But I wasn't backing down. I wanted her to know I wasn't going to let her get away with this. That night I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had the truth out in the open, and dread because I knew this was just the start of something much bigger. I couldn't believe I married someone capable of doing this, cheating, stealing, lying. It was like discovering a side of her I never knew existed, and now I had to figure out what to do next. I was going to let her destroy what little stability I had left, and I definitely wasn't going to let her keep the money or the house. This was war, and I was preparing for the fight of my life. After I laid everything out, proof, recordings, bank statements, her reaction was pure chaos. Lisa's face went from bitchy smirk to outright rage in seconds. She yelled, called me every name in the book, accused me of being paranoid, insecure, and said I was just jealous of her success. She tried to gaslight me, saying I was imagining things, that Mark was just a mentor and nothing more. Her voice was high-pitched, sharp, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew her game now, and I knew she was lying through her teeth. She started crying then, big fake tears, the kind she's perfected over the years. She begged, said she was sorry, swore she loved me, and that this was all a mistake. She claimed Mark was just a bad influence, that she'd never meant for it to go this far. I looked at her, feeling a mix of disgust and heartbreak. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray everything we built? I wanted to believe her, but I knew better. I saw the truth in her eyes. She didn't love me anymore. She loved her affair, her secrets, her lies. I realized then that she'd been planning this for a while, probably since the day she met Mark. I told her I was done listening to her lies. I told her I'd be contacting a lawyer, that she was going to regret this. That's when she snapped. Her bitchy attitude turned into outright hostility. She accused me of being controlling, jealous, insecure, said I was just a simple guy who couldn't handle her success and independence, but it was all bullshit. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. I was done being the fool. I told her she had to leave the house, that I wasn't going to tolerate her betrayal anymore. Her eyes flashed with anger, and she yelled she'd fight me, that she'd take everything I owned. That's when I decided to hit back harder. I told her about the money, how I knew she'd transferred our savings to Mark, and that I was going to freeze her accounts, report her to the bank, and take legal action to recover what she stole. I also told her I was planning to file for divorce and that I'd be fighting for custody of the house and the money. She scoffed, calling me a loser, saying I'd never win, that I was powerless without her. But I knew better. I had the evidence, the law on my side, and I was determined to make her pay for what she'd done. In the days that followed, I moved quickly. I hired a lawyer, started the divorce proceedings, and filed for a financial freeze on all her accounts. I also contacted a private investigator to dig into her affairs and confirm everything. She tried to act innocent in front of friends and family, but I knew she was panicking. She started to lash out, calling me names, trying to guilt-trip me, but I refused to be manipulated anymore. I felt a strange sense of clarity, like I'd been blind before, but now I could see everything clearly. Meanwhile, she kept trying to spin her story, claiming I was a control freak who didn't understand her ambitions. She said she only cheated because she was stressed and lonely, that she never meant to hurt me, just needed some excitement. It was all bullshit. I saw through her lies now. She was a manipulative, bitchy woman who thought she could get away with anything, but I wasn't going to let her. I was ready for the legal fight, ready to take back what's mine, and ready to make her regret ever crossing me. The house, the money, her career, everything was on the line, and I was determined to come out on top, no matter what it took. The betrayal cut deep, but it also lit a fire in me. I knew this was just the beginning of the battle. The legal battle kicked off faster than I expected, and honestly, it felt like stepping into a war I wasn't prepared for. Lisa, of course, played the victim card at every turn, crying, pretending to be the wronged wife, trying to sway everyone around her. She told friends and family that I was controlling, insecure, and that she was just trying to find herself. The thing is, I knew her too well now. I knew the way she lied, the way she manipulated. She painted herself as some kind of innocent victim, but all I had to do was look at the evidence, her secret emails, the transfers, her sneaky behavior, and it was clear she was the one who was guilty. Meanwhile, I stayed calm and focused. I was working with my lawyer, preparing for the inevitable fight over the house and the money. The big issue was the $200, $0 she transferred, our life savings, without my approval. I had no choice but to file a lawsuit to recover it. The lawyer told me I had a strong case, especially with the proof I had. But Lisa was fighting back just as hard. She hired her own lawyer, and suddenly, things got even messier. She claimed she was entitled to the money, that it was a joint account, and that I had no right to freeze or take anything. She argued she was entitled to the house, even though it was bought and paid for before we got married. Her accusations were relentless, and she kept trying to spin the narrative that I was the bad guy. One day, I caught her trying to secretly meet with Mark again. I saw her leaving a hotel late one night. Her makeup smudged, her hair a mess. I followed her quietly and saw her go inside. That was the final straw. I took pictures, recorded their encounter, and sent everything to my lawyer. It confirmed everything I suspected, that she was still actively involved with him, even during the legal proceedings. That was when I knew I had to push harder. I couldn't let her keep lying, manipulating, or stealing from me. I had to make her pay. The emotional toll was brutal. Every day felt like walking on a razor's edge. I was angry, hurt, betrayed, and sometimes I even felt guilty, like I failed somehow. But I reminded myself that I had done everything I could to save the marriage, to understand her, to work things out. She chose to betray me, to lie and steal. I couldn't fix that. The only thing I could do now was fight for what was rightfully mine. The house, the savings, my dignity. I also started planning my next move, how to get her out of the house legally, how to protect myself financially, and how to make sure she couldn't manipulate her way out of this. I was prepared for her to try, to drag things out in court, to stall, to lie, to cheat her way through. But I had enough evidence, and I knew the law was on my side. I was ready to go all the way. I even contacted a private investigator to keep tabs on her, just in case she tried to hide or transfer more money or assets. I had to be one step ahead always. The worst part was seeing her so bitchy and manipulative, trying to act innocent in front of everyone, pretending to be the victim. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I knew her game. She thought she could just lie her way out of everything, but I was determined not to let her get away with it. This was about justice, about reclaiming what she stole, about making her realize she couldn't just cheat her way through life. I was ready for the fight, and I was going to see it through to the end. Whatever it took, I was going to make her regret crossing me. The court hearings were a whirlwind. Lisa showed up with that same bitchy smirk, trying to act like the innocent wife betrayed by a jealous husband. She spun her stories about stress, loneliness, and how she was just trying to find herself, all while denying any affair or financial wrongdoing. The lawyers exchanged heated arguments, each side presenting their evidence. I felt like I was watching a game I couldn't lose. I had all the proof, screenshots, bank statements, recordings, and I made sure they were all presented clearly. My lawyer was relentless, pointing out how she'd lied, manipulated, and stolen from me. The judge seemed to see through her act, especially after I submitted the evidence of her secret meetings with Mark and the unauthorized transfer of our savings. The judge ordered a freeze on her accounts, and I was awarded temporary possession of the house, at least until the final decision. It felt good, but I knew this was only the beginning. Lisa wasn't going down without a fight. She kept trying to manipulate the situation, claiming she was entitled to everything, that I was trying to control her. But I stood my ground. I knew her game now, and I wasn't going to let her win. Meanwhile, I kept digging into her finances. I hired a forensic accountant to trace every penny. It turned out she'd been funneling more money to Mark, small transfers here and there, probably trying to hide it. I also found out she'd been making secret purchases online, designer clothes, jewelry, expensive gadgets, all financed by the stolen savings. It was clear she was living a double life, using my money to fund her affair. That anger only fueled my resolve. I was going to get every cent back, and I was going to make her pay for her lies and betrayal. Her behavior grew even more bitchy and manipulative as the court dates progressed. She accused me of being controlling, jealous, insecure, claimed I was trying to ruin her, but I knew the truth. I was trying to protect myself, my home, and what was left of our savings. I started to realize that Lisa's entire identity was built on lies and manipulation. Her tears, her apologies, they were all fake. She was trying to spin her web of lies tighter, hoping I'd back down. But I wasn't backing down. I had the evidence, the law, and the emotional strength to see this through. The most shocking moment came during a deposition when she outright lied about her affair with Mark, claiming it was just a professional relationship. Her tone was bitchy and dismissive, like she thought she could just lie her way out of everything. I sat there, holding back my rage, knowing that the truth was much uglier. I had seen the messages, the transfers, the secret meetings. I had everything I needed to crush her lies. That moment I realized how deep her deception went, and I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. Not this time. As the days went by, I felt a strange mixture of relief and bitterness. I was winning in court, but inside, I was still rebuilding myself from the wreckage she'd caused. The betrayal had cut deep, but it also made me stronger. I learned that trust is fragile, and some people will lie and cheat no matter what. I also learned that I had to be ruthless to protect what's mine. I started making plans for the future, how to rebuild my life, how to move on without her. I knew I'd never forget what she did, but I also knew I had to let go of the anger if I wanted to heal. That bitchy side of her was still trying to manipulate everyone around her, but I refused to let her. I was done playing her game. The court was my battleground now, and I was determined to come out victorious. I wanted her to see that her lies and her betrayal weren't going to destroy me. I was going to take everything back, my house, my money, and I was going to make sure she paid for her deception. This was the fight of my life, and I was ready to see it through to the very end. The final court date was the culmination of everything I had worked for, and honestly, I felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and satisfaction. Lisa showed up with her usual bitchy attitude, trying to look confident, but I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes. She still denied everything, claimed she was innocent, that she never intended to hurt me, that her affair with Mark was just a moment of weakness. but the evidence was overwhelming. The emails, the transfers, the recordings, all of it painted a clear picture of a woman who lied, cheated, and stole her way through our life together. When the judge finally delivered the verdict, it was almost anticlimactic, but it felt like justice. The court ordered the full recovery of the stolen $200, $0, awarded me full ownership of the house, and declared her no longer entitled to any part of the assets we had accumulated. I felt a strange sense of relief, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Lisa was furious, screaming and crying, trying to manipulate the situation, but the judge wasn't having it. The law was clear. She had betrayed me and she was going to pay for it. In the aftermath, I moved out of the house, took control of my finances, and started rebuilding my life. I cut off all contact with Lisa. No calls, no messages, no attempts at reconciliation. I knew she'd try to come back, try to manipulate me again, but I was done. I learned a hard lesson about trust, loyalty, and the kind of person she really was. I also learned that revenge isn't about revenge itself. It's about reclaiming your dignity and making sure the people who hurt you face the consequences. Looking back, I realize how much this experience changed me. I'm more cautious now, more aware of the people I let into my life. I do trust easily anymore, and I don't forgive easily either. But I also know that I'm stronger than I thought, and I can survive even the most devastating betrayals. I want to tell anyone out there who's going through something similar: trust your instincts, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to fight for what's rightfully yours. Sometimes, the only way to heal is to take back control and make the guilty face their actions. As for Lisa, I have no doubt she'll continue to lie, manipulate, and play her games with whoever she can. But I've learned that some people are just like that: bitchy, selfish, and willing to betray everything for their own gain. I won't be one of those people anymore. I've closed that chapter of my life and I'm finally moving forward. It hurts, it's messy, and it's painful. But in the end, honesty and integrity will always win. And I've learned that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones that teach us the most about ourselves.